Welcome to my book again, The Philosophy of the Ananke, Part 20. It still deals with nature proposes and God disposes, a part of the update, and we'll continue where we left off last time. Evolution within the cooking process, an analogy to gain insight. So we're gaining insight into what's going on with inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, and algorithms. And why do I suggest that the products that are out there in nature seem to be products of induction and deduction and algorithms in the genetic code. Okay, so to continue. Let us use the analogy of creating a dish in the art of cooking. There are many elements that we can cook from: sweet substances, bitter substances, sour substances, animal products, and vegetable products, and so on. We choose to select these ingredients on the basis of a, quote, sweet and sour dish that we know exists already. This is our criterion of selection. In particular, we study the, quote, species, sweet and sour pork. We vary the ingredients of this species somewhat randomly: a different sweetener, a different amount of sweetness, a vegetable here and there, different types of sourness, different cuts of pork, and so on. Variation in the potential genetic recipes is abundant and can be random and mutated by a mere trial and error. From this trial and error, along with our criterion of a sweet and sour pork dish, along with our criterion that it tastes wonderful, comes a new dish. Let's call it Chef Gordon Chang's Sweet and Sour Pork Delight. What a creation. What a masterpiece of cooking evolution. It's a winner. It will survive and flourish in my restaurant. I will create the exact genetic recipe so that it can be copied fast and economically. I will spread the recipe worldwide. I will make a fortune. I think you may see my point. This is Neo-Darwinist cooking at its best. Variations come from different ingredients which come into play, as well as genetic mutations on those ingredients by making them more or less sour, more or less sweet, and more tender, the pork that is, etc. All of these variations are candidates in the cooking selection process. The chef does the selection by his/her unique taste buds within the idea of the species called sweet and sour pork. By analogy, it is survival of the fittest pork dish. The end dish, however, still belongs to one species, sweet and sour pork. Now, let's do this again to create another species, say chop suey. As a new chef on Earth, we do not know chop suey. All we know is sweet and sour pork variations. How do we get to chop suey from sweet and sour pork, or from the basic raw ingredients of food? All we know are the basic ingredients, including the ones needed to create chop suey. It seems impossible to evolve the dish by randomly selecting ingredients and randomly selecting the quantities of each ingredient simultaneously. Eventually, we may stumble into new tastes, but this will take a long, long time, and our restaurant may be out of business by then. But is this random trial and error what the chef does? The answer is in all likelihood no. I cook and have created unique species dishes deductively. From my own perceptions, I elevate my experimentation to a higher level of concept. For example, within the genus, quote-unquote, of Chinese cooking, there are principles that can be followed. For example, many unique species/dishes can come from the following. 1. Choose an animal product, example, meat, pork, scallop, shrimp, etc. 2. Choose vegetables, both hard and soft, example, onion, celery, tomato. Choose a sauce, step 3, sweet and sour, brown sauce, Hunan sauce, Szechuan sauce, or create your own. 4. Choose an oil, peanut oil, canola oil, and so on, and some spices, allspice, garlic, etc. 5. Choose a thickening agent, cornstarch, wheat flour, potato starch, and so on. Now stir-fry the hard stuff first, example, meat, onion, broccoli, with the spices. Next, add the soft ingredients. Lastly, add the sauce, which should contain some thickening agent, cornstarch, flour, etc. If it tastes good, then you have created a new species, which you may call Gordon's mysteriously evolved Chinese dish number 1. Realize that I had to work with higher concepts, and some trial and error, and some ahas at 3 a.m. in the morning. Definite genetic leaps in my brain had to happen to create these realizations, which were not necessary when varying the species sweet and sour pork. New species/dishes were created, but by a different process, a technique that was non-algorithmic deduction in its truest sense of the word. My brain leaped to conclusions similar to the transposons in the chromosomal world. Now, to be inductive in cooking implies creating a new genus like French cooking. Here the concepts are evolved from the food basics, and the leaps become greater than before, and the time elements become extended in order to do the creating. French cooking, German cooking, and Chinese cooking become some of the evolved genera through the necessity of inductive thought of the great chefs. Summary and conclusions. So what can we conclude through reasoning, some evidence, and analogy? 1. The Neo-Darwinists' 4 basic assumptions have been disproved recently by scientific evidence and experimentation. At the very least, we must look beyond a mere algorithmic step-by-step process to explain the variations that we see. Genes do not mutate randomly and are connected to the environment in a feedback mannerism. Genes leap, transposons, for reasons beyond the meaning of randomness, and they change at differing speeds, not gradual. 2. That Darwin's tree of life should be more aptly termed a network of life. See page 1238 of Dennis Noble's article. 3. That the 5th assumption of survival of the fittest is not an obvious one to be believed blindly without a question as to why this law exists in the first place. 4. That the recipe that the gene delivers can vary a species, but it is questionable that the gene alone, this selfish gene as Dawkins puts it, can explain the deductive products seen by virtue of various species, and the inductive products exhibited by various genus. 5. At the very least, this evolutionary process cannot be claimed to be algorithmic in its entirety. It is still a mystery as to how the variations come about, and how/why the selection criterion of survival continues being constant in time. So we are left with stating that the evolutionary process, which is half of an Ananke cycle, see Herbert Spencer comparison in my updates, does not act as if it is solely algorithmic, and it does still act as if it is thinking. Is it a mind? Is it not a mind? The evidence still requires a minor, in my belief, leap of faith. For me, I believe that there is a mind behind the order that we see, and that this mind maintains the cohesive, constant forces, which include survival of the most creative energy, which requires survival of the fittest as a consequence when applied to living organisms. Without the maintenance of these creative and cohesive forces, we would have no dynamic equilibrium systems. We would have no life. We would merely have entropy. The Big Bang would have yielded chaos only. There would be neither life nor dynamic equilibrium systems in the energy. Fortunately, this is not the case. Look into the heavens. Look around the earth. Look into the molecules. Look into the atom. Order is not likely, but it is. It exists. It exists in the form of products of algorithms, deductions, and inductions. It exists in the form of variation in the species, in the amount of species within a genus, and in the quantity of genera that we see all around us. Essentially, I believe that life exists because I believe that God is actively varying things like a chef that creates dish upon dish and creates different types of cuisine. In addition, God is maintaining the selection criterion, quote, survival of the most creative towards the goal of maximum creativity in order for itself, God, to survive forever. Let me say that again. God is maintaining the selection criterion, survival of the most creative towards the goal of maximum creativity in order for itself, God, to survive forever. In the final analysis, one can view God as the ultimate selfish gene, in Dawkins' language, and the selector of the selfish gene's fate. Even if God is not involved in the variations that we see, even if the variations merely appear as products of induction and deduction, Even if the mind merely maintains the law of survival, we can at the very least claim that nature proposes and God disposes, thereby producing the evolutionary products that we see all around us. Okay, I'm trying to find the next section. It looks like there are references on the next page. Okay. The next section is Ananke and the Pursuit of Happiness. Update to Chapter 3, June 7th, 2001. So we're going backwards in time. Throughout my book, I have written about happiness. For example, in the case of particles, going against the flow delivers opposing cohesive forces. In the case of people, going against the flow delivers mental and or physical pain in the long run. On the other hand, particles going with the flow expend the least amount of energy. It is the path of least resistance. For people, going with the flow delivers the least amount of pain and the highest state of enduring happiness. This is on page 3 of this book. Quote, if we knew the formula, then we could understand the flow, the direction, the way. If we knew the way, this Tao, then our lives could improve through the sympathetic response that would occur. This response being one that would allow Ananke's orderly process to go forward to reward the behavior with feelings of joy and an improved state of happiness. Page 21 of this book. Remember, the extremes are used by Ananke to force situations back to equilibrium. Thus, the right way can be discovered by understanding these boundaries. We know that the right way lies somewhere in between the bounds in a state of moderation. This is not to say that we must pursue mediocrity. Page 30 of this book. If the above technique is applied, then the rewards will come your way. You will understand that you changed your life for the better. As you change your life and work with the formula of Ananke, you will begin to recognize the balancing points of your personality. You will discover many imbalances that you must work on. But like any tool that is used, it does get easier. The imbalances will become apparent. The way of defining the point of equilibrium will become a cinch. The process of achieving the proper way will require less effort. Your life will improve, it will contain less pain, and you will reach a higher level of happiness. Page 31. That the consequence of going with the order is joy, pleasure, and happiness for all. Page 33. By now we should be aware that our primary purpose is to seek the feeling of happiness, which emerges from a state of balance that we are free to acquire within certain constraints. We are signaled that we have arrived at this moderate position when we feel a state of relaxation and contentment. Page 47. So, without quoting any more, Ananke and happiness have been addressed, but it had not been completed. We still don't know precisely the way to happiness. We have deduced that this mind behind the Ananke must think in order to exist forever. It must therefore be creative and destructive, thus forming yet another Ananke rhythm. It pursues peace, balance, and happiness, but never quite reaches the utopian state out of necessity. Can we learn from our deductions? I think so. Happiness can be achieved by maximizing creativity on the positive side while minimizing the necessary destruction on the negative side. By necessary destruction, I mean the destruction that is necessary in order to rebuild, in order to create something new and better. Excessive destruction should be avoided, since in the limit, all would be destroyed and existence would be annihilated. Deficient destruction should be avoided, since in the limit, all would be created and creativity would have to end. Thus, there is a balance between creative acts and destructive acts which produce the most joy. Superimposed on the creative destructive cycle, which leads to joy, is the necessary maintenance of the body and mind condition. This cost of happiness remains to be minimized in an Ananke way. We need a procedure that is viable. This procedure should be based on the formula or components of the Ananke vibration. And I have to look at my book. I think I got to show you something. So let me turn to A44. Excuse me for a second. And not quite there in terms of showing it, but it's coming. All right, so the components of the Ananke. This is page 165 or A45, depending on what you're looking at. The components of the Ananke are the pattern of opposite polarity, stillness versus chaos, the pattern of opposite motion, stillness to chaos versus the opposite, the pattern of rhythm, stillness to chaos to stillness and back again, the goal of the normal moderate vibration, the tendency towards balance and harmony, the pattern of efficiency, law of least negative, the pattern of anticycles in orbits, and the tendency toward uniqueness or individuality. The most important component for now is the goal of the normal moderate vibration in all things. As the theory goes, we can approach higher levels of happiness by achieving this balanced condition. In other words, we can pursue happiness by understanding the normal moderate vibration and utilizing the results. We can pursue the joy of creativity while taking care of the relatively mundane issues of mind and body in a proper way. So what is this normal moderate vibration? Okay. So a good picture to show you right now, which is in the book, is this one that I'll take out of the book. It's not in color, but it is in your thing, so let me show you. Let me get over here and see if I can see it there. It is hard to see because I'm blocking the screen, but here it is. Here we go. All right, so there it is. I'll give you a couple of seconds to look at it. It's a normal distribution where you have one side is deficiency, the other side is excess, and the middle is moderation. All right, so let me go ahead and go back to the book. The normal moderate vibration is composed of deficiency, moderate, and excessive vibrations, vibration modes, that each one goes from stillness to chaos back to stillness. It's just one is in a slow way, stillness to chaos to stillness. The other is an excessive way, stillness to chaos to stillness. And the moderate way is stillness to chaos to stillness, kind of an in-between, for any characteristic or attribute. As the above diagram suggests, any characteristic or attribute can have a deficient condition, moderate condition, and excessive one. Let me put this back. Book. Alrighty. All right. In other words, 5% of the time we should be deficient, 5% of the time excessive, and 90% of the time in a moderate condition, give or take a bit. That is to say, all things in moderation, including moderation, seems to be the functional goal of this Ananke. In fact, since we cannot spend 100% of our time in a state of creativity, this normal moderate vibration seems to be proper way for creativity itself. That is to say, all things in moderation, including creativity as well. Therefore, in order to pursue happiness, we must identify these characteristics or attributes beyond creativity that we must fix, if necessary, toward the normal moderate vibration. These attributes occur in our daily lives as a function of our busyness. Okay. Next, I have a little table, which I can just recite to you. It says the way to happiness, the potential imbalances of our busyness. There are 10 of them, conveniently like 10 fingers. Food, clothing, shelter, transportation, healthcare, safety, entertainment, connectivity, passion/love, and philosophy/religion. Some of these attributes, such as the pursuit of food, are listed above. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but it is a good initial checklist in order to judge our level of happiness with respect to the normal moderate vibration. Please note that creativity can be layered on top of most of these categories as well. For example, there is a creativity concept that can be applied to food, creative cooking, to clothing, creative fashion design, to shelter, creative architecture, and so on. The following charts list the 10 categories above and their respective interpretations as to the 4 conditions of deficiency, excess, moderation, and the normal moderate vibration. After reading the state of affairs upon achieving the normal moderate vibration, it should become apparent that our happiness or our unhappiness is due to deviating from this Ananke goal, as well as having too little creativity in our lives. Let me say that again. It should become apparent that our unhappiness is due to deviating from this Ananke goal, as well as having too little creativity in our lives. The reader should now examine carefully the following. Food. You have deficient vibration, example, anorexia nervosa. You have excessive vibration, example, bulimia, eat too much when not hungry for other reasons. You have moderate vibration, balanced meals, proper calorie count, but monotonous if all the time. Normal and moderate vibration, the way. 90% of the time, moderate, 5% celebrating feasting, and 5% dieting fasting. Clothing, deficient vibration, living in rags, etc. Excessive vibration, 100 pairs of shoes, like we need all those shoes, too much dollars spent on garments. Moderate vibration, sufficient for your occupation and play activities. Normal moderate vibration, the way. 90% of the time, moderate expenditures, 5% splurging, 5% donate/leave wanting, and not getting the clothing that you somehow wanted. Okay, next. Shelter. Deficient vibration, living on the street. Not the thrill of a lifetime. Excessive vibration. Payments beyond your means. Produces money problems and deficiencies in other areas such as connectivity due to working in excess to afford the shelter. Moderate vibration. Living within your means. You won't get rich, but you'll have peace of mind. Normal moderate vibration. 90% of the time living within your means. 5% of the time buying some luxury furniture or appliances, and 5% of the time leaving yourself wanting. It stimulates appreciation. Our health. Deficient condition. Couch potato with fries. Cardiac problems, muscle problems, etc. No knowledge of health care, never treats illnesses, totally inept. Excessive condition. Exercise like an athlete, eat for muscle. Athletic breakdown by 40 years of age. Neurotically seeks a doctor for every pain. Takes vitamins, minerals, pharmaceutical drugs to excess. Moderate condition. Moderate exercise, eat right. Healthy most of the time, treats illnesses in due course. Normal moderate vibration. 90% moderate. 5% of the time pushing oneself in the gym. 5% of the time on vacation and eating like a pig. Our safety. Deficient condition. Living in danger, bodily danger, mental, emotional danger, financial danger, excessive condition, no risk life. We barely leave our homes due to fear. We never risk our emotions or try to help negative people. We spend on excessive insurance, etc. We choose to live in a fascist, dictatorial state or neighborhood for safety purposes. Moderate condition, an educated risk life. Normal moderate vibration, 90% moderate, 5% of the time we take foolish long shot, 5% of the time we retreat to the womb to heal. I want to check something. I think I missed something here. Let me see. We have shelter. We spoke about, we forgot transportation, I think. Deficient vibration, walking only, may not be able to hold down a job. Excessive vibration, numerous cars, expensive ones. You get money problems with payments, etc. The car owns you. You hate parking in a space because it might get damaged, that Porsche of yours. Moderate vibration, sufficient for your life conditions. Normal moderate vibration, 90% moderate. 5% of the time walk/run/bicycle. 5% of the time treat yourself to a luxury rental car or limo. Okay, now I'll go back to where we were. Entertainment, deficient condition. We exist, but we don't live. Life seems functional, but boring. Excessive conditions, the plight of the idle rich. We dazzle our senses until we feel nothing at all. Restaurants, flashy clothes, mansions, Rolls Royce, it's all discounted within a short period of time. We're stuck with the bills. Moderate conditions, same amount per week. Every Saturday a movie and a dinner out. Normal moderate vibration, 90% of the time moderate. 5% of the time we are bored with functionality. 5% of the time we vacation and stimulate our senses. Connectivity. Deficient condition, the antisocial hermit. Self-centered, non-giving, lonely condition. Excessive condition, the need to be needed. Helpful but promotes dependency on themselves, enables others. Constantly involved in community service till exhaustion. Immediate family is sacrificed and they become dysfunctional. Unconditionally loves all. Satisfies others' needs all the time. Moderate condition, the interdependent. Gives 50%, shows how to fish, promotes independence, involved in community but not to the detriment of family, conditionally loves everybody, conditionally loves everybody. Normal moderate vibration, 90% moderate, of course. 5% unconditionally gives 110% sometimes. 5% of the time is necessarily selfish and taking and excludes others. Passion/love, enthusiasm for life. Deficient vibration, the untouched person. Everything is merely functional. We exist, we are bored. Excessive vibration, love, 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 love. Ignoring all negatives and accentuating all positives yield unforeseen disasters. Enormous highs and lows, manic depressive. We fool ourselves 50% of the time and live in a fairy tale life. Moderate vibration, conditional love/passion. We accentuate real positives, deal with the negatives. Unforeseen dangers for the most part do not occur. We let our inclinations guide us to our real passions in life. Normal moderate vibration, again 90% moderate, and sometimes life is extremely hard, and this 5% of life should be treated with fake passion, fake love, and fake positives just to get by. 5% of the time, life must be routine and just hard, boring work. But it's only 5% on each extreme. Upon inspecting the above 10 areas of our busyness, it should become apparent that if we could only achieve the normal moderate vibration in our lives while achieving the normal moderate vibration for creativity as well, then we may indeed approach happiness. In the final analysis, this is the best we can do. We can approach happiness to its highest level, but we can never reach it out of necessity, since at the very least our bodies decay and we die. But how do we achieve this approaching happiness goal when we are becoming disrupted all of the time and in many areas at once? Firstly, we must prioritize our imbalances. Is deficient passion for our life, deficient creativity, deficient enthusiasm, promoting our excessive eating habits? Is the money spent on excessive shelter yielding no time for connectivity due to excessive workaholism? In other words, make a list of the major imbalances that cause the others to exist. Then work on the top causal items with the most amount of energy, since accomplishing them toward the normal moderate vibration will make the others easier to achieve. Secondly, this does not mean that we should avoid going on a diet because we have too little enthusiasm for life and consequently should work on the passion attribute first. It does mean that we may have to work on many areas simultaneously, but our priorities and energies must be focused on the top of the list. The potential causation for the other imbalances on the top of the list, which are the potential causation for the other imbalances. Otherwise, we may lose weight temporarily, then gain it back when a few negatives come our way, or when we are just bored in life. Otherwise, we may try to spend more time with our families and friends, only to cancel engagements due to business obligations. Thirdly, the way to the normal moderate vibration among all of the busyness areas must be achieved in a least negative manner. We must do the least harm to others and other creatures as we achieve our normal moderate way. I realize that what I'm saying is not a pill. It's not easy. We can't just say Aum under a tree. We have to work hard in order to achieve higher states of happiness, and there are no guarantees. We may approach happiness only to be knocked off course by a sudden chance disturbance due to another Ananke cycle that sets us back for a while. A family member dies suddenly. We are laid off from work or fired. A hurricane demolishes our house. A social revolution occurs just as we are getting our act together. Let's face it, we really have no choice. If we want to experience some happiness in this life, or even to condition our inclinations for the possible next life, I have to say it again, I said it wrong. We really have no choice if we want to experience some happiness in this life, or even to condition our inclinations for the possible next life. We can accept what we have, or try to change our lives for the better. This is our choice, barring unforeseen large Ananke cycles that can disturb us to no end. We can pursue happiness in a logical manner by adjusting our attributes to the normal, moderate vibration. In summary, our speculation has been that the Absolute is trying to pursue peace, balance, and in human terms, happiness as a secondary goal beyond eternal existence. It needs to continuously create in order to exist, and it has produced our species as a new and exciting potential expression of its joy and future resonance. At the present, many of us are not happy. We may be approaching higher levels of happiness in time as a species, but we are far from our happiness potential. Maybe as mankind progresses toward his future occupation of caretaker, it will get easier for all of us to achieve the desired goal of the highest level of happiness possible. In the end, this is the best that we can achieve due to the inevitable change and destruction that must take place. We may not be may not be able to achieve happiness, but we can be the most happy given our mortal condition. One second, I got to see where we're at. I think we're at a stopping point. Okay, so we're at Ananke and personal freedom, and I think it's a convenient point to stop. So let me check the time. It's at 30 minutes, 31 minutes exactly. So that's a good point to stop because I want to do it in 30-minute about modules, plus or minus 5 minutes. So take care, and I'll see you next time on personal freedom. Bye-bye.